And time for the T-shirt transfer paper power half hour, brought to you by Condé Systems. I'm your humble host, Doug DeWitt. Welcome to the show. If you tuned in to last episode, you may have seen my demonstration on the IC Split software offered by Forever Paper, which we used to do a 4-split image that was originally 16 inches by 20 inches. And we could break it down into 4 sheets, 8.5 by 11 inch size. Well, in today's show, we are going to recreate the graphic so that we have a 16-inch by 20-inch design of David Bowie put on a t-shirt. Now, before I get started, being the transfer paper power half hour, let's go ahead and pay the power bills. Now, as far as this wonderful program, IC Split, remember, it is included in our Oki C711WT Go Big Special. Now, besides Go Big specials on the C711WT, we have a Mardi Gras special that we're running as well. Heck, we've even got specials on all of our Oki printer platforms. So, pick the size that's right for you, and then call 1-800-826-6332. Make sure to talk to one of our fine account managers. They'll get you set up with the system that fits your needs. Now, another thing we need to announce is the upcoming Sublimation Summit hosted by top influencer Cheryl Kuchik. That is going to happen March 10 through 12. It is a virtual summit, so you can attend no matter where you are, even if you're buried under 5 feet of snow. As far as the seminars are concerned, David Gross will be teaching. Our own Space Monkey Sprite Rose Wood will be teaching, and I will be there giving a couple of classes. So it's a can't miss event. Make sure you go to our website, Condé.com, click on the web banner for it, and you can save $35 off of registration. Make sure you do that. Now, along that same vein, as far as keeping you up to date and keeping you educated, here at Condé, we're bringing back our Webinar Wednesdays, and we've got a good one for you tomorrow, sublimating phone cases for small business. One of the top influencers in the industry, Miss Crystal Ann, who happens to be a small business owner herself, she's going to come aboard and demonstrate her best methods for decorating the brand new iPhone cases, and she's going to show you the line of Condé cases that we offer. So it's going to be a good informative webinar. Make sure you tune in for that tomorrow at 3 p.m. And of course, how can we not forget the Road to Sublimation Success, co-offered by our very own David Gross. This is a great tutorial that is going to get you up and running in the world of sublimation. But don't just take my word for it. Right here on the back, testimonials. David has been sharing over 25 years of sublimation expertise. This book should cost at least $5,000. It will save you that much in preventing mistakes and avoiding rabbit holes. And that's from Chris Bernay, co-founder of April Apparel. Well, we're going to cut you guys a break. We're not going to list it at $5,000, even though we could. Thanks for the marketing advice, Chris. But just so you know, it is available through Amazon for download through Kindle, and now available at Condé.com. So make sure you get your copy. All right, power bills have been paid. Let's go ahead and get started. We are going to recreate the 4-color design we did last episode, 4-panel. And for demonstration purposes, we are going to put it on this Hanes Beefy Tee 100% cotton t-shirt. Now, what other ingredients do we need to concoct this thing? Well, first off, you need your transfers, which I have right here. I've got my A foil sheets and my B sheets, because remember, we are using Forever LowTemp Laser Dark for this process. You're also going to need some finishing sheets. Now, here at Condé, we've got 2 varieties. We've got a matte finishing sheet, and we've got our brand new gloss finishing sheet. This is going to help us go through the steps, setting the emulsion while at the same time protecting our heat press. Very important that you have these. Some other ingredients you're going to need. I'm going to use some heat tape today. I'm going to use a pair of scissors. Of course, I never go anywhere without my trusty sticky lint roller. And I'm probably going to need a beverage. Now, this being Fat Tuesday, normally this would be adult, but I'm working for you and we're on the clock, so we're going to keep it to cold coffee. So let's go ahead and get started. What I want to do here first off is grab the transfers that we did in the last episode, which was a demo of the IC Split. And what I want to do here, I'm going to move some of these items to the side. Sprite, if you can get it to the table for me. What we want to do, make sure I've got enough room here. First thing I like to do is kind of get a visual on how the design is going to lay out. Because remember, when we're using the IC Split software, it's creating splits or tiles for us, but the tiles aren't necessarily going to appear on the same spot of your design every time. So in other words, how they lay out will depend on the orientation of the graphic and the orientation of the sheet. So if we put our panels together correct, this is how the design should lay out. But as you'll notice here, sometimes the design might be centered. Thank you, Sprite. And sometimes the design might be printed off to one side. So let me go ahead and at least walk through the A to B marrying process with the Forever LowTemp Laser Dark so that you get an idea of how it works. I've got my trusty GeoNite DK20S heat press. Got a couple of sheets of butcher paper. I'm going to go ahead and take my design, one of the four, take my B sheet. Now, just as a pro tip, I like to warm my B sheet on the warm bottom platen, just in case there's any moisture in there. We won't get any moisture bubbles. And another thing I want to do is, looking at the design here, I want to make sure that my area is covered as conveniently as I possibly can. So the point I'm trying to get across here is you may not exactly lay down the B sheet over the A foil in the same spot every time. You might have to shift your B sheet around a little bit just to make sure that you cover the area that you need to cover. So we put our A sheet and B sheet together on the platen, and I'm pressing at 310 degrees Fahrenheit for 90 seconds for an 8.5 inch by 11 inch sheet. Now, if this were an 8.5 by 17 inch sheet or an 11 by 17 sheet, then I would go 2 minutes with it. But for 8.5 by 11, minute and a half. Now, the 4-part split that we are going to put together, this one's going to be a little tricky, honestly, lining up 4 different panels. If you're just getting started with IC Split, my advice would be stick with graphics that you could split just once. So in other words, you know, portrait, landscape, however your artwork is laid out. Now remember, because the 711WT can run an 8.5 inch by 17 inch sheet, basically you can have a 17 inch by 17 inch coverage area using 2 sheets and doing 1 split with IC Split software. So that's got a few more seconds to cook up. And in the interest of saving time, what I did was went ahead and prepared another set so that we can move along here with the presentation. Now, when I peel the A sheet and B sheet, another thing to note is you want to keep that A foil sheet against that bottom platen so that as you're peeling along, you could do a nice slow peel. Make sure you don't pick up any of the toner off with the transfer sheet. So we remove our protective paper. I'm going to grab one corner here, and I'm going to go one corner to the opposite corner. Nice, slow, steady motion here. And the reason I'm doing it this way is because I picked a particularly low mask number when I ran it through the transfer rip. If you need to remember, just go back to the last episode. But the reason I picked a low mask number is it makes a big dropout hole, and if we're dealing with a 16 inch by 20 inch graphic, then essentially we've got a lot of coverage, so we want to make sure that there's some good spacing in that dropout hole, and that's what's going to keep the design soft and flexible. Okay, So that's basically a demo on how we did the A sheet to B sheet marrying or weeding step using the Forever LowTemp Laser Dark. Now, what I went ahead and did was I went ahead and trimmed my designs, and I kind of contour cut them, so to speak. I didn't necessarily get right up to the edge of the design, but I wanted to give myself a little bit of contour there, so as I'm putting my jigsaw puzzle together, it's easier for me to line up. So that's basically how the graphic's going to look. Let's go ahead and take our t-shirt here. I'm going to open up my heat press. I'm going to lay the t-shirt on the platen. And a tip when doing work with splits from IC Split software, we want to keep this t-shirt as tight and as flat on the bottom platen as we can. Let's make sure to use our sticky lint roller to remove any contaminants that might be on the shirt, because remember, if we drop the heat press down, they're going to become part of the shirt whether you like it or not. Okay, so I'm going to take a sheet of butcher paper, and I am going to do a pre-press of my garment. I'm not going to lock the press in, I'm just letting it drop. And I'm pre-pressing for about 5 to 10 seconds, just so we can iron out that area, make sure we have a flat area. Okay, so got my flat area to work with. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the top two pieces of the design right here, and I'm going to lay them out on the shirt so I can get an idea of the orientation of the graphic. Now, once I have it oriented the way I want it, right there, that looks good. Okay, now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm basically going to start at one corner and work my way around. I'm going to work with the biggest piece first to kind of use that as my anchor point. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a couple of pieces of heat tape, and I'm going to secure my graphic so that it doesn't move around. And let's go ahead and put the first piece down. I'm going to cover with a sheet of butcher paper. And when I press this design, instead of going the full 30 seconds, I'm only going to go 15 seconds. Because essentially, I want to set the emulsion. Since we're going to be pressing this shirt numerous times, we're going to cover exposed areas with silicone sheets to keep them protected, and we're just going to proceed on. So like I said, let's go ahead and get this first part down. It's only going to take about 15 seconds to do. There we go. Let's remove our cover sheet. I'm going to put this shirt on the table so we can lay it out. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm using a piece of aluminum. This just happens to be some of our new Chromolux textured aluminum, which I really dig. But the reason that I'm using the aluminum sheet is so that I could rapidly cool this design. There we go. And so now I'll go ahead and remove my heat tape. And let's go ahead and peel this first section. Like I said, when it comes to the low temp, we don't want to pull it up. We want to roll it off like we're rolling vinyl. And there's my first section down. We are up and running. Okay, so now I want to go ahead and get the second section down. I'm going to put the shirt on the press. I'm going to drag it over a little bit to make sure I've got some room to work with. Now, at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover with a non-stick silicone sheet just to protect the image that's already down. And again, we're just dropping the platen down for about 5 to 10 seconds to iron out that area because we've shifted the shirt on the platen. There we go. Let's make sure our shirt is nice and flat. And now, let me grab the second piece and we will proceed. Now, like I said, because I did a little bit of a contour cut here, this is going to kind of help me align my design. Now, the cool thing about working with this is because it is working with a clear film, we're able to see through the film directly to our image below, which does make the alignment process easier. So once I have that second piece down where I think it's going to work, let's hold it in place. Let's anchor it here. There we go. Anchor it there. You notice I'm trying not to anchor it on the exposed graphic because if I put heat tape there and then pull it up, it's probably going to pull up part of the design. So let's cover our exposed area with silicone. Let's put parchment paper over the rest. And let's do our second step. Again, 15 seconds. Using the same time or using the same temperature and pressure that you did for the marrying step or weeding step. But like I said, we're going in 15-second increments. So that way we can rapidly cool these designs and keep working. So let me get this shirt back on the table. There we go. Let's use our sheet of aluminum to rapidly cool the design. Hopefully this will only take a few seconds. Okay. Let's go ahead and remove our heat tape. And let's roll the second section. There we go. All right, so 2 sections down, 2 sections to go. Let me go ahead and get David back on the heat press here. Again, I'm going to cover with a silicone sheet because I'm moving the shirt a little further up so that I can iron out this section down at the bottom. And again, I'm just dropping the press down, not locking it in. 5 to 10 seconds is all we really need. But like I said, the key is keep the shirt tight and keep the shirt flat. So, looking at my 2 pieces here, I'm going to try to put this one on next. They're both about the same size, but this one was tricky when I was doing it in rehearsal. So I'm going to see if I could do a better job of lining this one up today. Okay. I think I've got that where I want it. And like I said, when it comes to using the IC split, the more the design has a jigsaw pattern to it, the easier it's going to be to align. Where you're going to run into trouble, there we go, is if it pretty much cuts at pretty much a straight line. And the reason that is because if you make a slight alignment mistake, if the pattern is really jigsawed, it's real tough for the human eye to catch it. But if it's a straight line practically and you're off a little bit, you're definitely going to notice. Okay, so let me go ahead, anchor my points to make sure that the design stays flat. There we go. Remember to use your parchment paper over the exposed part of the design. And then the rest we're going to cover with butcher paper. And as we're doing these sections, 15 seconds at a time, same temperature, same pressure that you used for your A to B marrying. Now, of course, if we were going on to a cotton poly blend or polyester, we would drop the temperature a little bit to make sure that we could put those, to go to those fabrics without any dye migration. But since this is a cotton shirt, we can just keep rolling. Let me get the shirt back on the table here. Again, using my sheet of metal to rapidly cool the design. There we go. Let me go ahead, go from here. Three parts down, one more part to go. And again, since I'm doing this last part here, I'm going to shift the shirt on the platen a little bit to make sure I've got room. Let's remember to keep the shirt tight on the platen. Let me go ahead, cover these. I know I've got one more matte silicone sheet. There we go. And again, just dropping the platen down, 5 to 10 seconds, iron out the area that we're going to work with. The key is to keep the shirt as flat and as stretched as possible, and that way everything should line up. So one more to go. Here it is. Let's fill in the missing piece. Fit our jigsaw. Okay. And then once we have our finished piece, let's use some heat tape. Anchor this. Wait a minute. Somebody pulled a fast one on me. Look at that. Thank goodness I'm somewhat clever and able to catch my mistakes on a live television show. Yuck, 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 yuck. All right, there we go. Because that would have been really embarrassing to pull this last transfer down and nothing sticks. There we go. Grab one more piece of heat tape. Let's anchor that right there. Okay. Protective silicone, protective nonstick silicone over the exposed areas of the design, parchment sheet over everything. And again, we'll hit this last section for 15 seconds. Do a little house cleaning. There we go. Let's lay our last part down. I hope everyone can see that. Again, using a sheet of aluminum to rapidly cool the A-foil. Now, once the final section here gets put on, we're still going to want to come back and put the whole shirt in the press and do our 30-second finishing press with either our gloss finishing sheets or matte finishing sheets, depending on how we want the design to appear. Now remember, when it comes to finishing sheets, as long as toner doesn't accumulate on them, we can reuse the same finishing sheet over and over again. So it's basically a requirement to make sure you're going to get the durability out of these designs. So I highly recommend that everybody has some non-stick silicone, gloss or matte, depending on your preference, but make sure you've got it in your toolbox, so to speak. All right, so there is our finished design. Let's put our shirt on the press. Now, because this is a 16-inch by 20-inch design, it's pretty much covering the entire platen. And the cool part about this is we did this with an Oki C711WT. Let's cover the whole design. I'm going to put my butcher paper down. And this time we're going to set the design for 30 seconds. And this should be our final set. So in other words, once we take this t-shirt out of the heat press, it's basically ready to wear right out the shop. So, you know, the cool part about using IC Split is, like I said, even if you have a small system, you could do those bigger designs that you get on demand. Even if you have a big system like the 9541, you can still employ IC Split. It's a clever little program for taking a big graphic that would be beyond the size capability of our white toner printer and breaking it into panels so that we can do larger designs. So, with the IC Split program and a little bit of patience, we could do designs that are bigger than direct to garment. And the cool part is we get all the benefits of using a white toner system, which is going on to all different types of fabric material and no pre-treating. So, that's basically how you tackle setting your splits when using IC Split, the Forever Transfer Rip, and the Forever LowTemp Laser Dart. Like I said, if you've got IC Split now, you know, practice with just splitting a graphic in half and getting the hang of it. And the more experience that you gain, the more you'll be able to do these larger and larger mural designs on garments and other materials. So, if you have any questions about the technique that we covered, remember to shoot us an email at TTPPHH@Condé.com. We do read that inbox and we do look forward to your suggestions and comments. Make sure to tune in 2 weeks at 3:30 p.m. for our next episode of the T-Shirt Transfer Paper Power Half Hour. We're going to tackle one of Mr. Gross's favorite topics, inkjet transfer paper. So anybody out there working with inkjet transfers, make sure you tune in 2 weeks. Hopefully we'll have an informative show for you and everyone in the viewing audience. But until that time, I'm Doug DeWitt, Transfer Paper Product Manager here at Condé Systems. Thank you for watching the T-Shirt Transfer Paper Power Half Hour. My time is up. I